I was caught up into a vision. In the vision, I saw a man who was zealously serving the Lord. He was continually witnessing to people, teaching the Bible, and visiting the sick to pray for them. He was very zealous for the Lord and had a genuine love for people. Then I saw another man named Angelo, who was obviously a tramp or a homeless person. When a small kitten wandered into his path, he started to kick it, but restrained himself, though he still shoved it out of the way rather harshly with his foot. Then the Lord asked me which of these men pleased him the most. The first, I said, without hesitating. No, the second, he responded, and began to tell me their stories. He shared that the first man had been raised in a wonderful family, which had always known the Lord. He grew up in a thriving church and then attended one of the best Bible colleges in the country. He had been given 100 portions of his love, but he was using only 75. The second man had been born deaf. He was abused and kept in a dark, cold attic until he was found by the authorities when he was 8 years old. He had then been shifted from one institution to another, where the abuse continued. Finally, he was turned out on the streets. The Lord had only given him 3 portions of his love to help him overcome all of this, but he had mustered every bit of it to fight the rage in his heart and keep from hurting the kitten. I now looked at that man, a king sitting on a throne far more glorious than Solomon could have even imagined. Hosts of angels were arrayed about him, waiting to do his bidding. I turned to the Lord in awe. I still could not believe he was real, much less one of the great kings. Lord, please tell me the rest of his story, I begged. Of course, that is why we are here. Angelo was so faithful with the little I had given him that I gave him 3 more portions of my love. He used all of that to quit stealing. He almost starved, but he refused to take anything that was not his. He bought his food with what he could make collecting bottles, and occasionally he found someone who would let him do yard work. Angelo could not hear, but he had learned to read, so I sent him a gospel tract. As he read it, the Spirit opened his heart, and he gave his life to me. I again doubled the portions of my love to him, and he faithfully used all of them. He wanted to share me with others, but he could not speak. Even though he lived in such poverty, he started spending over half of everything he made on gospel tracts to give out on street corners. How many did he leave to you? I asked, thinking that it must have been multitudes for him to be sitting with the kings. 1, the Lord answered. In order to encourage him, I let him lead a dying alcoholic to me. It encouraged him so much that he would have stood on that corner for many more years just to bring another soul to repentance. But all of heaven was entreating me to bring him here quickly, and I, too, wanted him to receive his reward. But what did Angelo do to become a king here? I asked. He was faithful with all that he was given. He overcame all until he became like me, and he died a martyr. But what did he overcome, and how was he martyred? He overcame the world with my love. Very few have overcome so much with so little. Many of my people dwell in homes with conveniences that kings would have envied just a century ago, yet they do not appreciate them. Angelo, on the other hand, would so appreciate even a cardboard box on a cold night that he would turn it into a glorious temple of my presence. Angelo began to love everyone and everything. He would rejoice more over an apple than some of my people do over a great feast. He was faithful with all that I gave him, even though it was not very much compared to what I gave others. You must not judge by appearances. There are as many true servants who look like he did as there are among the polished professionals in the great cathedrals and organizations that men have built in my name. He then motioned for me to look up at Angelo. When I turned, he had descended the steps to his throne and was now right in front of me. Opening his arms, he gave me a great hug and kissed my forehead like a father. Love poured over me and through me until I felt that it would overload my nervous system. When he finally released me, I was staggering as if I were drunk, but it was a wonderful feeling. It was love like I had never felt before. He could have imparted that to you on earth, the Lord continued. He had much to give to my people, but they would not come near him. Even my prophets avoided him. He grew in the faith by buying a Bible and a couple of books that he read over and over. He tried to go to churches, but he could not find one that would receive him. If they would have taken him in, they would have taken me in. He was my knock upon their door. How did he die? I asked, remembering that he had been martyred. He froze to death, trying to keep alive an old wino who had passed out in the cold. As I looked at Angelo, I did not understand how dying in this way made him a martyr, which I thought was a title reserved for those who died because they would not compromise their testimony of the Lordship of Christ. Lord, I know that he is truly an overcomer, I remarked, and it truly is warranted for him to be here. But are those who die in such a way actually considered martyrs? Angelo was a martyr every day that he lived. He would only do enough for himself to stay alive, and he gladly sacrificed his life to save a needy friend. As Paul wrote to the Corinthians, even if you give your body to be burned, but do not have love, it counts as nothing. But when you give yourself with love, it counts for much. Angelo died every day because he did not live for himself, but for others. Even though he always considered himself the least of the saints, he was truly one of the greatest. As you have already learned, many of those who consider themselves the greatest and are considered by others to be the greatest end up being the least here. Angelo did not die for a doctrine or even for his testimony, but he did die for me. Lord, please help me to remember this. When I return, please do not let me forget what I am seeing here, I begged. That is why I am with you here, and I will be with you when you return. Wisdom is to see with my eyes and to not judge by appearances. If my people would look at others the way I do, Angelo and many others like him would have been recognized. They would have been paraded into the greatest pulpits. My people would have come from the ends of the earth to sit at their feet, because by doing this, they would have sat at my feet. He would have taught you to love and how to invest the gifts that I have given you so that you could bear much more fruit. Always remember that compassion will remove the veils from your soul faster than anything else.